Samantha had always been curious about the supernatural. When her cousin brought a Ouija board to a family gathering, she begged to try it. Everyone thought it was just a silly party game. They gathered in the living room, lights dimmed, and the board resting on the coffee table. At first, nothing happened. Then, the planchette moved with force, spelling out "Hello, Sam." Everyone was stunned. No one had said her name aloud. Samantha felt her heart pound as she asked, "Who are you?" The board spelled, "Look behind you." She whipped her head around, but saw nothing except the old mirror hanging on the wall. Nervous laughter filled the room, but the tension was thick. They asked more questions, and the entity revealed itself as a little girl named Anna, who had died in the same town decades ago. Samantha felt strangely connected to her, asking personal questions while the others watched in unease. Suddenly, Anna spelled, "I want to see you." The mirror rattled on the wall as if struck by invisible hands. Samantha swore she saw a pale face with hollow eyes staring at her from the reflection. Terrified, her cousin shouted that they should stop, but Samantha couldn't pull her hands away. It was as if they were glued to the planchette. The board spelled, "Mirror open." At that exact moment, the glass surface rippled like water. Samantha's reflection began moving independently, smiling wickedly while Samantha's real face twisted in horror. Her reflection raised its hand as if trying to crawl out of the mirror. Everyone screamed and grabbed Samantha, pulling her away from the table. The mirror cracked down the center, splitting the reflection into two. Her cousin finally yelled "Goodbye," and yanked the board off the table. Instantly, the room returned to normal. The mirror, however, remained cracked, yet Samantha swore the other version of her still stood smiling within the broken shards. Years later, that mirror still hangs in her family home. Visitors often complain of seeing a strange girl, or sometimes Samantha herself, standing behind them in the glass, even when she's nowhere in sight. It all started one stormy night, when a group of 4 college friends, Amira, Jason, Lily, and Marcus, decided to test an old Ouija board Lily had bought from a thrift shop. They gathered in Marcus's basement, with only a single candle flickering between them. The room felt damp, shadows stretching long across the walls. They placed their hands on the planchette, whispering nervously. Jason asked the first question, "Is anyone here with us?" The planchette hesitated, then slid to yes. Everyone froze, thinking one of them was pushing it. But each swore they weren't. The air turned colder, and Lily felt her hair brush against her neck as if someone had breathed on her. They asked the entity's name. Slowly, it spelled out, "Damien." No one recognized it. Jason laughed, but his laugh died when a loud knock echoed from the basement door. Marcus's dog upstairs barked frantically. Terrified, Amira asked, "What do you want?" The board replied, "Let me in." Suddenly, the candle went out. The basement plunged into darkness. They scrambled for their phones, but every single battery had died. Jason, panicking, ran to the door and yanked it open, only to find the hallway pitch black, far darker than it should have been with the lights on upstairs. A shadow stood there, tall and distorted, with glowing red eyes. The friends screamed, slamming the door shut. The knocking resumed, louder and louder, shaking the walls. Marcus tried to say goodbye on the board, but the planchette refused to move. It was as though invisible hands held it in place. Then, as if mocking them, it spelled out never. After what felt like an eternity, the knocking stopped. The basement lights flickered back on, phones lit up with 3:33 a.m., and the candle reignited on its own. They abandoned the board, throwing it into a dumpster the next day. But weeks later, Jason woke every night at exactly 3:33 a.m. to the sound of faint knocking on his bedroom door, and every time, no one was there. In a small town, 3 teenagers, Ethan, Claire, and David, decided to take their Ouija board to the creepiest place they could think of, the abandoned graveyard on the hill. They sneaked out past midnight, carrying flashlights and the board. The cemetery was silent except for the rustling of dead leaves. They set the board on a cracked tombstone, sitting cross-legged around it. When they asked if anyone was present, the planchette shot to yes instantly. Ethan smirked, thinking David was pushing it, but David looked pale. They asked for a name. It spelled, Evelyn. Claire shivered. She had seen that name etched on one of the gravestones earlier. Ethan laughed, mocking the spirit, saying, "If you're real, show yourself." The board responded, "Turn around." They slowly turned their flashlights toward the darkness. Standing among the graves was the faint outline of a woman in a torn dress, her head hanging low, her hair covering her face. She swayed unnaturally, as if her body was broken. Claire screamed, but Ethan, trying to be brave, shouted, "This is fake." The woman lifted her head, revealing a twisted, eyeless face with a wide, bloody grin. The planchette spelled furiously, "Run." Without hesitation, they bolted, leaving the board behind. But as they sprinted through the cemetery, the path seemed endless. No matter how far they ran, the gates never came closer. The woman's distorted figure appeared in every direction, always getting nearer. Claire tripped, her flashlight rolling away. David tried to help her up, but when he looked at her face, it wasn't Claire anymore. It was Evelyn, smiling at him through hollow sockets. Panicked, he dragged her, only to realize Ethan had vanished completely. Moments later, Ethan's screams echoed across the graveyard, then stopped suddenly. David finally collapsed to his knees, whispering goodbye to the board even though it was miles behind. Everything went silent. The gates appeared before him. He stumbled out, gasping, and when he looked back, the graveyard was perfectly empty, as though no one had been there at all. To this day, Ethan has never been found. And every time David dreams, he sees Claire's face slowly morph into Evelyn's, and hears faint whispers calling him back to the graveyard.